The question we always ask when we start SoundPower, we always want to know, how did it start? How did it start for you? Where was the healthy obsession with music? How did it begin?
Well, it began when I was around 2 years old. I've been told, but for me, my first memory is not. It's a very visual memory of a drop of water that splashes everywhere and just inundate my my soul, my body, whatever, just boom like. And I've always been using music and taught myself as a need. It's never been a passion. It's never been, oh, it's fun. It's a need, right? It's even more important for me than food, or anything else. Yes.
Okay, well, I'm immediately, because I don't normally speak so much at the beginning, but I love that what you've just said, because obviously in my own way, I relate to exactly what you said. You feel it in your veins, in your blood, just running through your body constantly, the whole essence of sound, vibration, and then the imagination. Aren't we lucky to live in that sonic world where we can have imaginings of sound, melody, rhythm, etc.? I mean, it's a glorious celebration to have that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. It is, but it's also, it's not always easy, as you know, right? Because when you're very sensitive, when you're very conscious, people say sensitive, but I think conscious is very similar. It just, the music, just flows, and the flow, I don't believe is actually from here. I really do believe, it's from, of course, it's from the spiritual world, and we shouldn't be ashamed or to say it, because it is, right? Well, when it comes, that you create and you just feel so much love, right? Your heart is filled with love, and that's, for me, I mean, music always been my salvation, right? It saved my life, every single time. So it's a need, and I can't even trying to comprehend more. The funny thing is, I always knew or felt this, like, it's very important for me to always be kind and compassionate and true to myself. And if I do this, the music will always flow. I always thought that since I'm a child.
Yeah. I'm going to jump in. Well, sorry, Chove usually talks mostly, but I love that.
Just interrupt before I do. The reason why I paused there is because I was excited for you both to meet, because from what I know about Riopy's story, there's a lot of echoing there in your own childhood story, and that how music became a solace in times of darkness. So I am sitting back and I'm just loving seeing this connection unfold, because there are a lot of similarities there.
Well, I thank you for that, because it's when you said it saved your life. I mean, I relate very much to that as well. No, it's an extraordinary thing. Anyway, it was me interjecting. I had other things. I always forget what I'm going to say. So, Chera, please lead us off into our journey of exploration, because this is a delight to meet you, a fellow traveler. I remember now what I was going to say. When you talked about the essence of it also having, the spiritual to the sacred, I have this sort of a diagram, which is a well-known thing, of where we are in the middle. We are the conduit between the heavens and the earth. In that way, we're the transmission receptors, aren't we, from the satellite of God to earthly beings, and there is obviously this hunger and thirst from people. That's also a question I would love to ask. I wonder what makes us as human beings find music, this invisible art form, this thing we can neither see nor touch, but what makes it so special and indeed life-changing, as obviously it has been for you?
Because everything is sound, right? Everything, like even the heartbeat, right? When you meditate, if you're really calm, then you hear your heartbeat. So the heart has a sound, the veins have a sound. When you breathe, you have a sound. Everything is sound. And I think, we just need to tune, right? To tune the sounds. And I mean, I was in Africa, a few months ago, 9 months ago, like the whole month, in this tribe. And it was amazing to see them all singing, dancing, and it was natural. It's natural, it's something. It's like, the kids, right? Like the 2 years old, she was just, banging on the drums, and I was like, wow, what happened to us in the West, right? I mean, music is the first language. It is the first language. It's, it's mandatory. I think, it's like everything comes from music.
Well, I absolutely with you, 100%. It's wonderful. But then going into our current times, I have a concern, let's say, because we have an understanding, and with so many people, that music is this very, very powerful force that can heal and transform, as well as obviously bringing us solace and peace and exhilaration and happiness. But I have a concern maybe that music, to a degree, with commercialization, which is modern, that's modern life, we have to accept, has perhaps turned it into so much more of an entertainment commodity, as opposed to this medium, which, let's say you talk about the Africans, and yes, we could talk about the Egyptians and the Indians, all sorts of people that have this within their society as such a natural art form. And yet, I think, because I almost heard you say, what have we lost? Meaning, where are we at this point of the compass in our lives on this planet Earth right now? What do you feel?
Oh, wow. I mean, look, there is so much to say, but the first thing I would say is, for me, we're here to create. I mean, we call God the creator, right? I mean, when you create, you have no fear. The fear is in the past or in the future. When you create, you're happy. When you sing, you're happy. Even a study came out not that long ago about when you sing, you don't have thoughts, which is very logical. I think the commercialization, as you say, at the moment it's not even, I mean, it's ridiculous. I think it's almost laughable, and we should laugh because, yes, some people, and it's always been, have greed, right? Greedy. And the problem is now that some musicians as well are being greedy, right? Everybody is being greedy. Like, I want more, I want to be famous. But the thing is, there is no, salvation in that. There is no solace. It's impossible to find happiness in this kind of stuff, That's why for me, I've never been, I mean, I don't go on my socials. I can't, because it's very depressing. It's not, and it's all, for me, it's all a joke, right? Music is music. And I've met people, extremely talented people, who are not famous and will never be. And to be honest, they don't even want to be. Because, fame comes with a cost, and same for money, because then it never stops. And we see it, we've always heard about it, and this is quite bad. Now, if you look about look at the commercialization of music right now, it's more than, I mean, it's crazy, and I think it should be addressed because AI is a machine and it'll always be a machine, right? We are souls. We don't have a soul. We are souls. We are, spiritual beings having an experience. And now, slowly science is catching up, right? Always a bit late, but, we're still here. And if we want to stay here, I think it's very important that we share, music. And I think we're going to go back to communities of, like saltimbanque, we say in French, right? Just going out and just play music on the street, whatever, because people will have a need more and more for this, right? That's why music is extremely powerful, but it can also be very dangerous, right? I heard somebody not that long ago in the music industry telling me it was Taylor Swift, latest song. And he said, this is the only song that is not AI. From now on, after this song is released, everything is AI. So everything you hear on the radio now, on the modern stuff, is AI, because the writers, they get basically the help from AI. Why? Because they want to be the best, So then what do? You don't create then. You assemble stuff. So you lose your creativity. And if you do that, you will not be able, it's like the brain, right? It will shrink. So all your skills of accessing, you mentioned the ether, or the she, right? I mean, many, many different names, but we do access this, yes, from this place, right? In the 80s, we thought, you need to take drugs, to feel and to express, but it's not drugs. It's because people think when they take drugs, they don't have this stress anymore and they go to that place. But if you go into meditation, and you guys, I'm sure you know that, right? If you go into a meditation or meditative, state, then you access everything and you don't hurt yourself. You feel better. You're already healing. So for me, that's how I see music. And that's why I tend not to even look at what's happening right now at the music industry and this commercial stuff, because it's beyond, I mean, for me, it's ridiculous, right? And I do not, I don't accept it, because I'm like, but the best way is, again, to you let go and you're happy, and I do what I can, but I'm really not, sold by this AI into music. I think it's silly, right? It's not even, there is nothing. AI could be great for us, right? To help us not to work, for example, and end up making music. What about a world if AI runs everything? I'd be happy with that. And then we don't have to make money. We only have to play, play and create and social interactions. And, we can build this utopia.
I can't say I'm with you on the last point, because I think to a degree, this is such a deep and interesting question, and obviously so current. The first thing I would say is that the dilemma we face to a degree in comparison to your African tribe is that, as the expression goes, music is a reflection of society. So if you take yourself, as we said, to your African place or Egypt or wherever I was mentioning, the music, the simple indigenous culture hopefully does keep all of that alive very naturally. But look at us in Europe and the world, the Western world, how I was going to use the word fractured. We're not degree because we're isolated each in our own little bubbles, but totally I won't even say confused, but overwhelmed by the plethora of so many styles and different music. For example, so let's say musical reflection of society, Africa, this one, indigenous, and obviously they hear a bit of radio and enjoy a few things. Can you imagine, as you do, I know, how many styles we have to encounter? 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, it's extraordinary. And to a degree that does reflect how society in this materialistic world that we live in, and to a degree we obviously enjoy its fruits, one has to recognize that. But I do feel, coming to my word fracturing, there is potentially a fracturing within the individual members of society. Now, so what you then concluded with talking about coming back into the community, I almost has a vision, as you were saying, that we're at a kind of, we're on the bridge, or almost hopefully within your world, to reach another side, which is like a rebirth, where perhaps then music does become so valuable to society, to each clubs and members and families and tribes. And indeed, there is the celebration, as you said at the very beginning, of creativity, that we are all creative beings.
All of us, yes. And I hear a lot of people, like my concerts coming and say, oh, I wish I could play the piano. And I always say, well, it's never too late, and we all can do it, everybody. But you need first to believe it. I mean, if you don't believe it, you can't do anything, right? And so I also believe that, yes, I think the world it's actually very good what's happening at the moment, because it's an opportunity. There is a challenge, but with a challenge, there is always a reward. And I always think that the bigger the challenge, the bigger the reward, right? And right now, a lot of people are awakening, to the fact that we are more than just, flesh, basically. We're more than that. And we can be humans, can be extremely creative, right? And extremely positive, right? Even if you go on YouTube or something, right? People only look at this bad stuff, but look at the good stuff. Like, if you look at the comments, a lot of people are actually very funny, right? And to laugh is very important. When you laugh, you feel good, right? It activates the vagus nerve, right? Like singing. And I think we should just focus on that, and to make sure everybody wants the same thing, because at the end of the day, the planet is very small, right? If you think about it. And I would love, to see, yes, more people making music, playing music, creating music from actually the fingers and the body itself, right? Which I think is very important. Now, you mentioned entertainment, earlier. Entertainment I think it's a different kind of music. And for me, there is, music with a big M and music with a small m, right? And I think it's up to each of us to discover it. It's not me to tell this is bad or something, but I do have for myself, an understanding, maybe a belief of what I feel, what I'm able, to see and to get from music, because it depends what you want to get as well, right? If you watch, a horror movie, right? If you look at the soundtracks, most of the time it's, oh my God, I mean, you're not going to have nice dreams, right? And music's extremely important, as of course, because it will take you to a place. Music takes you to a place. For me, it's a code. Now you've got good codes and you've got bad codes, right?
I love that. I love how...
Oh, Cherub, after you, please. I've dominated this, so please go.
I love how you demystify the idea of that people should play music, because I think after my traveling experience, noticing how easy music comes to other tribes and cultures across the world, they don't question it. There isn't that self-criticism there that determines whether they are a musician or whether they are a listener. And then in the West, I think it's very different, where people think they're either musical or they're just not. And I love to know more about your story, because you were self-taught, weren't you? So you learn all of this just through this need of needing to escape, I guess, and trying to find your own solace through music. And so what would be your advice on how we can encourage more people to tune into becoming a musician if it's not as readily available to them? As it was for you in the early days as well, from what I've read.
Yes, absolutely. But I think there is always an opportunity to find, a piano in a shop, in, somewhere, like a little keyboard or whatever. And today, that's the beauty. We live in a world where things are, it's easy to get, right? And it's not very expensive. I mean, everybody has a phone. A phone today is, what, $500 or even more, right? I mean, so you can find, a small keyboard for a secondhand for like, 50, 30, even £30, right? So it is accessible. And it's same for guitars, same for, and I think people should just try things out, right? And especially for me, the kids. For me, I would say the big worry is the kids. The kids need to make music. And of course, adults can as well. It's never too late. I've also had people at my gigs coming, like much older, in their 70s. Oh, yeah, I'm playing, your track New York. That's the first thing I learned. I'm like, wow, I mean, it's not an easy one. But they were like, I can do this. And that's the right attitude, to first to have the intent, right? To be curious, to have the intent. And then, yes, a little bit of discipline. Because at the beginning, like learning everything, anything what you want to learn is going to be a bit hard. But if you see the results, and that's the beauty. And I see it with my kids, right? Every time but it's hard, I'm like, come and watch me. And then they watch me play the piano. They're, oh my God. And I say, it took me a bit of time, So one day after another day, and then you just carry on, and then you can learn, and then you can become good. But not just like this, because we live in a time where everybody, the adrenaline and the dopamine is like bam, bam, everything now. It doesn't work this way. It's good for the brain, it's good for the heart, it's good for everything. I really think to play an instrument, and the voice also, of course, is an instrument, as you know, right? So we need to activate all of this. It's magic. For me, music, this is magic.
Of course. Cherub and I have an expression we often use, which is freedom within the discipline, which actually relates to, you having the willingness to pick the instrument up and stay patient to sort of understand how it all works. But coming to what you're saying, I think the dilemma personally for me, and Cherub knows I have what we call in England a bit of a soapbox, where you stand up with your cause. And it's music education, and to a degree this is on the decline, certainly in our society here in the UK. And it would concern me in that case that children aren't always exposed to music, as perhaps you and I have the fortune to chance upon it, by luck myself as well as maybe you. But as you say, because we have slightly different views on the modern society, because I do accept that there's going to be a lot of convenience coming from the technologies. But I think the danger for us perhaps to question, and for us certainly, if we can be conscious, is to sidestep, is to be merely consumers, because I think that's the way, perhaps with the ease of what everything is available, we somehow have to leapfrog out of that just receiving to think, hang on, I don't need to just tune into this, let me now make it. So it's creating that inspiration, as you say, for the young people to pick up a guitar, a piano, whatever, or play the piano. They won't pick it up.
But you can also, like, if you have a little bucket at home, right, you just get a stick outside and you get a rhythm. You got a little drum kit, right? And I do that with my kids, with anything. I do it with the hands, right? With my hands, I'm on the table and I'm like...
You're right.
And then, anything.
I drum with knitting needles.
There you go.
So, yeah. On a little biscuit tin.
That's great, and that might be actually a very nice sound. But you see, and I do it at the table with my 3 kids. Even the little one is he's not even 2, right? But he gets it, and he's becoming very good because we're tuning his brain. I really believe, and rhythm. I think rhythm is extremely important as well. Rhythm creates something special.
Well, they say academically, kids that actually get into music, learning it and, playing it, because we have to also remember music is you play music. So there has to be that exhilaration and exuberance of self-expression, which again is so important psychologically as well as physically. I think this is the key thing. So, what do you feel? How is music education for you, in your view, on trying to get more and more kids exposed to playing music? Do we need to have like centers where we got lots of free drum kits and stuff going on in community, do you think?
I think anything, as long as people, especially kids, can have an access to music, like if for me anything, because look, music education, if you look at the notation, right? I mean, some kids, my daughter loves it, my son not so much, but he loves taking the violin and coming next to me when I play the piano, and he just improvises, right? And and my daughter, and he's 6 years old, so I'm very proud. And my daughter, she likes to look at the score and play the notes, and she's very good at it, so I'm proud of her as well, right? And the little one, well, he likes coming along and just trying things. And for me, as long as you try and you just do it, and you find peace and happiness in doing so, then you're set, right? It doesn't need to be. I think the problem is we always complicate everything, and we get from the left brain the intellect all the time. Music shouldn't be from the intellect; it should be from the right brain, right? Just be creative. Whatever you do, I think it's good, and I'm always encouraging, for me, my kids to whatever they want to do, just do it, because there is no wrong, right? Because at some point you will feel it. You will know if the rhythm is wrong. You see? Because the more you do it, the more you tune. And I really think it's, that tunes the mind.
Beautiful. So when you compose, do you start with a feeling that you wish to emanate from the music, or does it just, do your fingers reveal the feeling as you start to play naturally?
I've never felt I'm the one, like I've never felt I'm special, blah, blah. As I said, at the beginning, I always felt, I felt more like a channel, more like, it's the interface. And when the music comes, it just comes. And I watch my fingers and I listen, that's the thing. I don't try to intellectual, I'm going to do this. And because every time I tried, it doesn't work. So I let go, And of course, it's very hard in this world, right? Because we've got all these five senses and all this, anxiety and everything. But for me, the struggle I've had, through my life really taught me, let go. That's it. Because I have no control over anything. So I'm doing what I can. That's it. It works great. It doesn't work. Great. Because otherwise you end up, I was giving this example the other day, it's like people asking me, so how did you feel? Like, how do you feel like being #1 classical Billboard in the US, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, thank you. I'm grateful. But I already moved on, because otherwise if I don't, what? You know what I mean? You become what? You stay there for your whole life. It's impossible. So then you're disappointed. And then if you're disappointed, you start, having, it will influence the music. It will influence, my state of consciousness. And I don't want to be like this. I don't want to feel this way. That's why I was almost like, I'm not really interested in that. You see? Because then you end up in competition. And I don't think competition is good. I think collaboration is good. So it's like we end up always, in this kind of like a loop, right? And I don't want to be in this loop. And honestly, I don't have an interest of this, because I don't think it helps anyone. And even for the kids, right? Like the kids, they should collaborate, because it's a positive emotion. Make music together. Don't try to be, oh yeah, you're going to win, you're going to lose. I mean, what, you know what I mean? For me, it's horrible to say that. Well, you lose, you're a loser. I mean, why? It's not, it's not necessary. And we see it even at schools, right? You see kids, they can be bright at the school model, but then they're not going to be good at anything else. And then you see some kids not good at school at all, but they're very, very creative. And that's actually happens a lot, right? So we can't say to a kid, yeah, you're bad because you're bad at school. That, for me, that's all BS, right? We need to change the system. And I think with everything happening at the moment, it's going to happen. Hopefully, we are at like a moment in time where the shift, we can all feel it, right? It's all madness. But again, I really believe we're going to make, the leap, and we're going to change the society. Because look, it's money. For me, I always say it's just money, right? But once we understand that money is just a tool and we should use it as a tool, then I think we change everything.
Yeah, beautifully put. And I think you're right that the pendulum almost it's about to swing in the other direction, and we're moving into a space, what comes after the Dark Ages, it's the Renaissance, and it's a period of music and art and culture and connection. And to go off the competition thing that you were just saying, we're moving into that era of completing each other, not competing with each other. And there are more singing circles popping up, and the huge surge of interest in your music, over 1 billion streams, and being able to tour globally and present this music, which in a way is somewhat of a meditation in itself. So the music that you're creating, intentionally or naturally, is most likely probably guiding people into those meditative states without having to even set that intention. It just happens naturally. For example, my favorite melody of yours that I was listening to earlier is Peace of Mind from the Tree of Light album. And it gave me an emotional release that you can't often get through conversations or through other areas of your life. Just listening to music and immersing yourself in that can be the sweetest release, an elegant and a beautiful way to let go. And so it's nice to hear that the letting go of your own creative process is being mirrored in the results when people are listening to it.
I love what you just said. Absolutely. And you were curious first, right? And then you put your intent to listen, and then something, bam. So you opened already yourself, and I can feel it in your voice. And that's beautiful, because I agree with everything you're saying. Yeah, it works like this. So you see, it's going to work. It's going to work, because once people realize that, then they change. And then we all change. And I really think that we can change very, very quickly. I really think, we are touching bottom. And we're gonna raise, from the ashes, for sure, because we can't kill the light. We can't. And cells are light, right? Photons, it's light. So the interface is very, very powerful. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, powerful stuff. And I know that you just touched on being able to hear it in my voice. Let's speak about your voice. We know that in your upcoming album will be the first time that you're going to be sharing your voice on the album. So it's traditionally been mainly piano before, and some strings and orchestral. But so what was the thought process behind that, and what is it that's making you ready to share your voice in this way?
I mean, honestly, it's funny how, as I said, right, life is funny, because if we think about the intellect, I have a good gig going on. I'm a pianist, I didn't need to do anything more, just carry on what you're doing. But my heart, I got sick last year, and my heart was just going to the piano again, as I always do, to heal, and I would start singing, and it would make me feel good. And I realized it would actually activate and help my vagus nerve. And I knew this because I saw it in a meditation. I saw this red thing all around my body, and I was like, what is this? And then I went online, and I saw the vagus nerve. That's what I saw in maybe, and it was all red. And from that I started to understand, and I started humming a lot. I started, singing. And I never wanted to sing, because when I was 15 years old, as you know a bit my life, where I grew up in a cold, blah, blah, blah. And basically they took my piano, away from me, and they bought my little brother a guitar. And so I was taking the guitar at night, because I was not allowed to take it. And they took my piano away because I was playing too much. They needed to break me, because they need to break everything. But I would, do it in my mind. So I was like, it's fine. So I took the guitar, but the guitar, like, naturally I would sing, because it's a small instrument, and it would just work. So I recorded a kind of a song, and I sent it to this. I was 14, 15. I sent it to this French TV, and I got selected. So the guru of the court was like, yeah, you should go, because they received a phone call, and of course she saw the money, because that's what the people do, obviously. So I went to Paris with my mother. I remember, because the guru sent her, and they wanted me to sing. And basically there was, this studio, as your world has a glass, right? And I couldn't sing, because I had too much trauma. I was in very bad shape, already at 15 years old. So I lost my voice, and they made fun of me. They were all laughing, at me behind the glass. And it traumatized me, it killed me, like literally. I never, ever, ever sang again. But then, as I said, last year, I was dying. There was an opportunity to let go even more. I didn't care. I would sing naturally. It would feel good, and I would just do it and be like, wow, I have nothing left, for me. I'm like, then I have no fear. So it took all the fear away, right? So I was actually very glad. I was like, wow, I just let go. And then I wasn't sure to include it fully. And then when I sent it to my team and they were like, oh, we love this, like, do it. And then again, my heart, do it. My intellect, don't do it. But I tend to listen to my heart all the time because, and of course, when I don't, then I feel it. So then I will, because it's the only way for me to thrive and be happy. So I started doing that. And in the meantime, there was Lana as well, Lana Del Rey, as you might know, that took a piece of my music. And my music always had this kind of like singing, up to it, and people would do it. And so I was like, it kind of reassured me, more and more. Just let go, be yourself, and happens what happens. So I started, but I didn't have the lyrics. I had the name of the album, Beloved, and the lyrics came, Beloved, and they came later. And it's a very crazy feeling even for me, but I realized later that the lyrics were actually my soul talking to me in the future. Yes, it was. When I realized, it's funny sometimes, the conscious mind cannot take everything at once, right? And you have little, if you could keep open and you believe in the magic, then the magic happens. And I realized that. And it was like this, and it was incredible because today I can look at myself in the mirror and say, I love you, because I see my soul. And I've never been able to do that before. I kept always my line, but I was too broken, and I looked at myself in the mirror. I was like, no, I don't love myself, of course, and like a lot of people, right? It's really hard to love yourself. And today, when I look at myself, I don't see, the ego, the intellect, I see my soul. And I'm like, I love you. And I really do, because we are a soul. And when I realized that, then I saw the lyrics and I'm like, oh my God, you were talking to me this whole time and I didn't even see it. So and Long Way Home, for example, I heard a whisper. At night she comes and talks to me. That's the lyrics. And come with me, I'll take you to the other side. And I was like, oh my God. And I didn't realize, right? So when I did, I'm like, it made me, music is magic. And again, I'm not special. We all have it. But now I can actually see it, right? As you did for my music, you were like looking, being curious, and something touched you. And a lot of other music touches you. And same for me, right? It's like, but we are ready to be open to it, to let go. And then something that is not from here comes. And that I really wish everybody could experience that, because you can't explain it. You have to live it. You have to experience it.
It's funny though, because I often wander around London and it's always gratifying when you meet fellow artists, musicians, with any spectrum of the arts, but with the most empathic viewpoint. I look at people and I think, gosh, I only wish you could get into music and be as involved in and absorbed as I am. I'm not trying to say that from an ego point of view, but it's just that wanting to share how amazing it is to be so absorbed, as we said at the very beginning, that it's just flowing through your veins. And I mean, I can speak for myself, it's constantly in my head. I mean, I wake up at 3 a.m. with an idea and I had to put the light on and write it down. I mean, it's just, otherwise I don't sleep, so it's just things bubbling under. Joe?
What a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that from your heart. And I know you touched on it in the conversation there, but for some of our listeners that may not know, and seemingly you grew up in a cult where music wasn't necessarily celebrated in the way it might be in other arenas, and to have gone on that deep journey, especially when there was that trauma. I've had similar situations where I've been laughed at from singing in plays in school, and not to the extent that you had, but it certainly left scars on me, and it took me years and years to be able to sing in public. So to hear this transformation and revelation that you've arrived at, where you are actually meeting your soul and being able to say I love you to yourself, which is no small thing. Would any of that happen without music?
It would have been very hard, I think, I don't know, because it would have been a different life, but I, you know, I remember like playing music before I walk, right? For me, it's easier for me to play music than walking. So yes, it's something, that yeah, it's very hard to answer that. It's very, very hard. And I really hope, yeah, everybody can experience that. And it comes with love, to accept, that because everybody, especially at the moment, guilt, shame, whatever feeling it is, and this destroys us. We need to let go. Come on, and just saying it really helps. Say to yourself, "I am love." I'm joy. I'm peace. I'm happiness. Just saying it and saying it again, and at some point, you start shifting, and it's hard. It's hard. And if you say to people, "Okay, say to yourself that you love yourself," they can't do it. Most people can't do it, and it's actually good that they will see, oh God, I can't do it, because then it's the first step. And I did, right? I looked at myself, I couldn't do it. And then, boom. And it's absolutely, it's incredible. And again, I'm not special.
Well,
Everybody can.
I love you because I have to tell a story that we always, admire or laugh at, whatever is appropriate. Where on good information, I heard that Cristiano Ronaldo, the famous Portugal football player, the ace of football and soccer, apparently his regime, he goes to the mirror every morning and just says, "I love you," and he's, just as you're saying, feeling that expansion of the soul and the spirit, etc. JP, I want to ask you, do you listen to music? And if so, what are you listening to? I.e., other people's music. I know when I'm working on stuff, I get absorbed in my own, but otherwise, I don't listen to much. So I'm curious if you do.
No. No, I don't listen too much. I mean, actually, I don't listen to music at home because I make music, and when I have time, I've got, the kids, I'm very busy, so I don't want to get, influenced or get like, so I get a lot of silence because I need it. I need to charge, it's very important for me. But the yes would be, we have music everywhere. So when I go, traveling and, as I do quite a bit, then you're always, confronted to music, right? Everywhere, shops, and I don't know, the dentist, whatever it is, there is always music. So I always get, a bit of music everywhere. But for me, consciously to like, oh yeah, sit down and listen to music, it's very rare, very, very rare, because I don't feel the need, right? But it might change, you never know. Maybe I feel that, I really need to listen to something, but so far, not really.
Yeah, well, I mean, personally, my exposure in London is going to live events as opposed to switching something on. But obviously in France, you have a wonderful and celebrated tradition, let's say in classical music, with the Impressionist, and I'll go to that era to start with, the fact you've got Ravel, Debussy creating these beautiful sound colors. And of course, I'm curious if you're aware of some of their music, which I'm sure you are, or Saté, or Messiaen. Such interesting harmonies, etc. He, I always think, is a Goliath for French music.
Well, I don't. I mean, honestly, I don't have much culture about, like, I'm very blunt. So of course I know some of. I mean, if you ask me, yes, I do. I would enjoy probably more, classical or instrumental music in general. Yes, but it's I'm not, yeah, I'm not like a chauvinist for French or for, not really. To be honest, like my favorite pianist is actually Louis Moreau Gottschalk, who's not very famous, but he's an American pianist. And I discovered it like I was 18 years old through actually my British friend, which is funny. And if you ask me if I like what music I like when I listen, when there is something, I would say, honestly, pretty much anything. Like, hold on, where was I yesterday? I heard, no, this morning I went, to the gym. So I've got my, my coach, and he was playing. You see, you always have music, Smashing Pumpkins, and I was like, this is amazing. I love my Smashing Pumpkins, and why? I don't know. So I think I don't really have a genre or anything, I think it's kind of, it's very eclectic. If something touches me or something I like, and at the end of the day, it's not very nice what I'm saying, but for me, music always has a function. As I said, for me, it's a code. So And when I heard Smashing Pumpkins in the gym, it actually felt good to train, which might not be the case with Eric Satie, right? Maybe you don't want to train the same way. But I do also love Eric Satie, right? Who, made some very, very beautiful, remarkable, pieces of work. And Mozart as well, right? It was pretty amazing. And you see Beethoven or Verdi I mean, the Italians, right? They invented the piano, right? It was Bartolomeo Cristofori, I think it was. And so I love music, but as I said, I don't take the time. I don't want to get too influenced more so to sit down. But you hear music everywhere all the time. When I was at Oxford Brookes, like 15 years ago, I discovered Steve Reich. And for me, piano phase, it's incredible. I think it was absolutely amazing piece of work. So and I heard not that long ago Eric with Care, the voices, he did, with the choirs, and I thought that was brilliant. I think that. But even even in classical, you have classical and you have classical, right? Because music is not, oh yeah, I listen to like slow music and this is great to go to sleep, for example. I think this is a lie, like to ourselves, because music is not about just, the tone, it's the colors and the rhythm and the textures. It's so, there's so much in it, right? And I really do believe it's like food. It depends what you want to eat, right? And for me, right? So it can, slow, yes, but slow like if you listen to the Gymnopédies, yes, I think it has a very nice feel to it. That makes you feel good. But if you listen to, I'm not going to name, but sometimes, slow stuff can also not be good for the, for the brain and the heart, because you can't feel the same thing. So it's very complex. It's up to each of us to discover, right? To be curious and then go in this world, because for me, a piece of music is a whole world in itself, right?
Yeah, I feel that. And I listened to so much of your music this morning to just tune in to the essence of this conversation. And what a journey. And the one that you made during lockdown, I think there was a lot of music made during that time where people were really expressing the truth of their souls. We had the time, and we had a moment in time there where people could just speak from the heart and everybody was listening. So yeah, exactly. Music is that, and it takes people on a journey. And to come back to what we were speaking about earlier, the album that you've got coming out in January, Be Love, and looking forward to hearing the lyrics, of course. And I think that what we were talking about, how we connect to music and allow ourselves to play and be curious, I do think that one of the most powerful mediums for that is the voice, and this energy that a lot of us feel in the West about being restricted and not knowing how to just start singing. So in your instance, it was pretty new for you to sit at the piano, even as this, accomplished musician, for the first time to start to sing and see what came out, and probably took some refining and developing to the point where you were satisfied to put it on the album. What would you say to our listeners who feel that restriction around the voice, who probably most of us have had experiences in the past where we've been chained? How do we free ourselves from that, and how can we just start making sounds? I know you mentioned humming. We do a lot of that in our therapeutic medium as well. What's the route in to start to express ourselves through the voice?
You talk to yourself out of fear. Because it's only fear. What do you risk? Nothing. But we put so much fear. Oh my God, what are people going to think? What are they going to say? What if I fail? What if, and why? What if you fail? What's going to happen? People are going to throw, tomatoes at you? But you know what I mean? We have fear that is not even, there is no reason to have fear. No reason at all. The fear drives everybody. As long, so I think that the way to do it, so how do we do it? For me, I can only share, what I did is, never be a victim. Never. And I would have all the reasons in the world to be a victim with, the shitty upbringing I had. But I didn't. I was like, come on, it's okay, okay. Be positive, be kind, and you go for it. And right now I'm doing this with my daughter. She's got this party at the end of the year, where she needs to perform. And she's like, I'm scared. And I'm like, reprogramming. Because it's all about the program, right? We need to rewire the brain. How? Well, I put another program in her, saying to her, you're good, you're good, you're powerful, come on, you're great, you can do it, it's easy, it's fun. and it transformed the fear into fun. And to be fair, for me as well, of course, I mean, my first concert was, first kind of big concert, let's say, like a long time ago, but it was in Oxford when I did, first, like really, in a proper concert hall, and, I drank half the bottle of whiskey. And I became deaf because the adrenaline, the fear, so I couldn't even hear myself. I was deaf. I was looking at my fingers. Thanks God I knew what I was doing. And then, of course, what do you have? Then you have the shame. So I felt, shameful. I felt, of course, sad, and then, of course, angry at myself. There is no way out of this. And then slowly I was like, no, come on, I'm not going to let that go. I carry on. And today I go on stage, I can smile, so I can share beautiful things to people even better, because I've got the confidence now, not the arrogance, never, but the confidence I'm ready to give you the best of myself, because you're here. First, if you're here, you came because you want to see me. So if you want to see me, I shouldn't be scared of anything. I should just be me and give you everything, to be able to be the channel I need to be on the piano. And because it's energy, isn't it? Everything is energy. Everything is sound. So we need to let go. So people, to start, I would say, just be confident, be kind to yourself. Be in a position where you're like, okay, it's going to be okay, and it's going to be fun. And if you repeat to yourself more and more and more, then it will work. That's the magic.
Beautiful. And you touched on then about your upbringing again, and the challenges that you faced there. Can you imagine what the child version of you would think now to see who you've become? What a journey. What would you say, if you could, to that younger version of you to give them hope in those dark times?
I love you.
Oh, beautiful. What more is there to say?
That's what we need, right? And honestly, sometimes when because look, we're never there, right? And even I've had a lot of struggles. I've had, I've achieved a lot, emotionally for me, because that's the most important, is to grow. We're here to grow up. But of course, sometimes I'm going to have anxiety. I'm not perfect, I still carry on. It's a process. But of course, now I've got my tools. So instead of being depressed, for 3 weeks, why it's going to be maybe half a day, maybe a couple of hours. And then I go into my tools, so the body and the mind, and, you've got, lots of ways to do that. I think it's very important to tune into ourselves, to be kind, to be love. And I look at the kids, so at my concerts, if I have a little bit of anxiety or something, I look at them as kids, and I see kids, and we all kids. I mean, you think about it, right? We all children, and we're all the children of somebody. We're all the brothers and sisters of somebody. So we are all humans. And if somebody judges me, then it's his problem. Because when you're like this, you actually hurt yourself. You don't realize it, but you hurt yourself. When you're jealous, you hurt yourself. When you're mean, you hurt yourself. And what I do, I breathe. Because of course, and I'm sure you understand that, because you're also empathic, right? That's the thing. When you're very sensitive, you're an empath, and you feel everything, but you need to learn how to protect, to protect yourself. And I've learned, and it's not easy, right? Because yes, in the world, you have some very good people, and then you have people who, they're not bad people, but they make bad choices, and it affects you. And then, you learn how, let go. It's okay. It's his problem, because a good person will never, shout at you if you fail. You see what I mean? That's how I see it. A good person would be kind to you. So that's what I, turn towards, and again, that's what I do with my kids, telling them, look, and, don't bully people, because you have bullies, right? We all had bullies, right? And the bully, they love getting to the sensitive people. They love it. But then it's sad for them. So we teach them. And I say, that's good, right? You've got bullies, it's a kind of macro society, isn't it? It's insane. But then slowly we change, and we program, we rewire the brain. And I think that, again, for me, the kids is the most important. For adults, they can do it now, but kids, it's much easier.
Well said. Tim?
Well, I agree with, kids are the future, obviously, and it's imperative. And I think what I can understand from what you're saying, and to a degree it reflects with me as well, when we have had challenging childhood, let's say, it does teach us to be more sympathetic with our own kids because we understand the journey. And obviously, in a way, we want to be kinder than we did experience. So it can but expand. And you're so right. I mean, it is all down to love. Do you like the Beatles? Because that was their message, wasn't it, all the time? Do you listen to the Beatles, JP? Have you heard them?
So of course I've heard the Beatles, quite a lot. I mean, I spent 20 years in the UK, so yes.
What?
But
You live over here?
I want to have a British passport. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, well, I can say because it's in English, but I do feel a bit more British than French because I mean, I moved to the UK. I was 21 years old, So I did all of my adulthood, in the UK. I lived in London and like a brief moment in Reading and then in Oxford for a long time and then back to London. So I only moved, a few years back to. Actually, we went to Paris a little bit and then Portugal now for the kids because I needed, son. I needed to be and like kind of a more quiet life, right? Which I thought would happen in Portugal. Yes, that's
Yeah, we know a lot of people going to Portugal. It seems to be a very amazing place for people to experience beauty and community, I guess, actually, as well, to a degree.
I would say that the one beautiful thing about Portuguese people is they love kids. So they're very, they do everything for the kids. They really love the kids. Even if you go to what they call the padaria, which is a bakery, in the morning, and like the owner would, come out and give a kiss and cuddles, to your kids, which I think is amazing. So, there is no perfect place, but the humanity they have towards children, and it's funny because they're kind of, I wouldn't say backwards, but a little bit, right, compared to London, right, or the US, right. If you go to New York or something where everybody is like so straight, I mean, forward, forward thinking, forward everything, and at the end of the day, well, as humans, it's funny. You go to Portugal, they're a bit backwards. They're a bit, like 10, 20 years, backwards. But then for me, they have everything because of the love, with the families. It's very family oriented. It's very, again, for the kids, my kids at the school, it's not the best school, but they're happy. They're extremely happy. They're full of love. They run, they come home with a big smile. And this for me is everything. I don't care if my kids don't go to Harvard and become, the big, I don't, give a damn as long as they're happy.
So JP, I totally agree with you. Is what I'm going to describe as a very beautiful lifestyle now that you have, is it affecting your music? Has your music changed? Are you noticing developments in what you're creating yourself?
I mean, I do not intellectualize or try to analyze what I do. I just do it, but I do feel in a good place, better and better, yes, because finding myself and the peace, and I love making music more and more now because I get all the stress out. I don't get so just get in that place. And yes, having kids also, of course, it's a new story. So everything is. I hope I'm growing up and evolving. For me that's the most important. As long as I go up and it's even if one day I was not doing music anymore because it was, I don't know, it came, because it's the thing to do. I would. I don't have any like agenda for my music. I do music because it heals me. And if I can heal, then it heals other people, I hope. But for me, it's it's a need, right? And maybe one day I'm not going to need it. And maybe I will, but you see what I mean? I'm not trying to intellectualize how I make music or something. I just really do what I feel and it feels really good. So as long as I'm like this, I'm happy.
Oh, thank you for giving us this time. It's been so enlightening to listen to your philosophy behind this beautiful music that has become a global phenomenon. And it really does help to show us all that no matter your past, no matter the pain and shame that any of us may have carried around music or our own creative expression, that sound and music in whatever form it takes for you, for us, for each individual, can become a doorway, a gateway to healing, hope and connection. And you're actually a real true testament to that. So long may your music live on and may it inspire the rest of the world as it has me and many others. Thank you so much for your time. This has been amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you.